Welcome into Sports Talk at the Stadium. USC and Texas A&M in the books here at Williams-Brice Stadium. And, I, for one, did not expect this to be a particularly close football game, and I was wrong. This was a more than a close football game. This was a game that South Carolina, you could make a case, had its chance to win had they just capitalized on a few plays, specifically in the special teams area, that cost them tonight against the Aggies. You just have to play clean in all three facets, and especially in special teams. Anytime you lose a special teams game, you usually see that team end up losing the ball game. Two missed field goals by Elliott Fry. They were both 40-plus yards, but both kicks that he is more than capable of making. And the muff punt in the fourth quarter just cost the Gamecocks. So a lot to unpack here. Let's dive in. First of all, the defense. A heck of a game plan by Will Muschamp to get that defense ready to go, and they really did a nice job containing Texas A&M. The Aggies went straight down the field on their first drive and scored a touchdown, but after that, they had a very hard time until the second half when they broke off about a 50-yard touchdown run that gave them their second touchdown of the game. But USC made them work for just about everything. And I didn't think this was a good matchup for them. They had to tackle in space. They had to try to find a way to get some pressure. And they did. They did those things by and large. They forced a turnover. They had some other opportunities out there. But given what this defense has been the past couple of seasons and what they are now, it's just night and day. Are they a world beater defense? No. But they are a solid unit right now. And they're playing, quite frankly, probably good enough football to win. In most every game except for the Mississippi State game, you can say the defense did its job. They did enough to win the game, and I think certainly they did today, holding Texas A&M to 24 points. Offensively, the big run by Turner to start the game, they showed some flashes with the running game. I really like what I saw from Rico Dowdle. He's got a little wiggle to him in terms of making guys miss and move in the pile. I think that's going to be a good asset for them at running back, his first game. So that's a positive. We know that Brandon McElwain is a struggling Gamecock right now. He just is not comfortable back there. He's holding the ball too long. He had, I think, 34 yards, taking a peek at the stats in the 3-8+ quarters of action. And when he was pulled out of the game for Perry Orth, he was second on the team in passing behind the punter, Sean Kelly, who had completed a 36-yard pass on a fake punt. To be the leading passer until Perry Orth came in and really kind of gave the Gamecocks a spark. They were down 11 at that point, so they had to throw the ball down the field. When he completed some passes, got the ball into scoring position, they missed another kick. They only ended up with 3 points, but Perry Orth definitely gave them a spark. Now, I know everybody's going to say, okay, well, why didn't he come in earlier? Why didn't he start? I think it's pretty funny because some of those same people were the ones probably saying at the beginning of the year, well, they should just play Brandon McElwain because he's the future and he needs to go out there and take his lumps. I think the reality is somewhere in between those two things. I mean, don't give up on Brandon McElwain. He looks rough out there because he is a freshman. Not only is he a true freshman, he's playing behind an offensive line that still is struggling with consistency. I don't think they were terrible today, but they certainly didn't dominate up front, and Texas A&M did not have Myles Garrett, the best defensive end in the SEC. He was out with an injury, so that was a big break for the Gamecocks there, but they still got manhandled at times up front. He has no playmakers that are proven around him, and Deebo Samuel didn't play, Brian Edwards didn't play, so the top two receivers out. It's a tough pill for any freshman to go in and play on this level and look, Deshaun Watson is a once in a generation type of player. That's not going to happen by and large. A redshirt freshman, maybe. A true freshman, they're going to struggle. So that said, I just think it's way too soon to say, well, Brandon McElwain's a bust or he's not what we thought he was. He's no good. But he's not ready. I don't think he's ready at this point to do the things that they need to do to stay in games. And even though he's not the future, he might be the now. You got to put the best guy in now, and Perry Orth was that guy. I thought last week, going back and watching that Kentucky game, that they probably should have taken a look at Orth at some point. in that matchup, and I think it might have been a little different. You think back to the Vanderbilt game, had Orth not played that entire second half, South Carolina doesn't beat Vanderbilt in that game. So it's just a balancing act if you're Will Muschamp. Once you go with McElwain, you want to ride him out. You don't want to hurt his confidence. You want to try to develop him, but you still have to try to win football games. And if there's a guy on your bench that gives you a better chance to do that, you have to go with him. So I think certainly Perry Orth has earned more playing time. He's more of a threat to pass. McElwain just did not have it, and it wasn't all his fault. I'm not going to put it all on him, but there are times you can tell he's back there. He's locked in on one guy. He's focused on him. He's not letting it go. As Spurrier used to say, you drop back there and just let it go. Let somebody make a play, keep it in the ballpark. He's not doing that right now. And I think one thing that people overstated was his running ability. He's quick, but he's not a game breaker with his speed, and the zone reads and everything's just a little bit off right now with Brandon McElwain in there in that offense. So they're going to have to take a hard look at that. And I would not be shocked right now if Perry Orth is your guy next week. Certainly Perry Orth needs to play against Georgia more than he did against Texas A&M for the Gamecocks to have a shot against a Bulldogs team that's going to be really hurting after what happened in that goofy matchup against Tennessee. So that's what things, what people are going to talk about is that quarterback controversy, if you will. It is a delicate act for Will Muschamp and Kurt Roper to try to tightrope with that offense, because it's an offense that is not going to look good this season. I think they'll look better if and when Deebo Samuel gets healthy, and I say if because he hasn't been healthy his entire career at South Carolina, so it's hard to think that he's going to come back and stay healthy for any length of time. I think Brian Edwards will be a big addition. You know, he's going to be a playmaker for the Gamecocks. He's going to be a good football player for South Carolina. So they have a lot of pieces out there that they're just trying to put together. They found Dowdle. I'm beating a drum here, but the drum that I'm beating is it's going to be ugly. It's not going to look good on offense at times. This is a game, to me, if you're South Carolina, they played hard. They went out there and battled, and they gave themselves a chance to beat a top 10 Texas A&M team. You know, they don't muff that punt. They're at least going to have the ball with a chance to tie the game. And really, you say, you know, ifs and buts, I get it. But if Elliott Fry makes those 2 field goals, they have the ball and they're going down there to kick a field goal to win the game. So they went toe-to-toe with the number 10 team in the country for 60 minutes. And that's better than the alternative, because I thought this thing could get ugly. I thought this could be one of those games where the Gamecocks get pummeled and don't score, or only score 7 and give up 40 on the other side, and it looks really bad. So there's no such thing as a moral victory, but there are better losses and worse losses, and this is one of those better losses for South Carolina. It's a process, and nobody has patience when it comes to being a fan and waiting for your team to score and be competitive. And the Gamecocks went from so good to so bad so fast that it's kind of a weird situation to be in. But to me, I saw more encouraging things than discouraging things for South Carolina against Texas A&M. Now they get Georgia. I mentioned the Bulldogs coming off that heartbreaking loss against Tennessee. It'll be interesting to see what kind of squad comes in here next week. It'll be interesting to see how the Gamecocks respond to this game, because they're facing some adversity now as well. And one thing that I will say, coming off that loss against Kentucky and a double-digit underdog at home, they brought their A game. I mean, they played hard. They played with energy and intensity and didn't lay an egg. And this was a game that had a nest there waiting for an egg to be laid on. So I give pretty high marks considering it was a loss. And I know that people are going to talk about the quarterback situation, the offense, play calling, and all that. Clean up the special teams. That's the first place I would start if I'm South Carolina, and just keep grinding, try to get those receivers healthy, try to get Deebo Samuel out there. He, by the way, would have been back there catching that punt if he's healthy. And maybe they don't muff it. But we can play the ifs and buts game all night. It was a solid effort by the defense, more of the growing process, but really I think a better performance for the offense this week compared to last week against a better defense, even though they weren't at full strength at Texas A&M. And to me, a step forward in year one for Will Muschamp as he continues to try to rebuild a depleted Gamecock team. He made a comment today that I thought was interesting when he said, essentially paraphrasing him here, and go back and listen, I put this in the story here on sportstalksc.com, but he said, people better get us now while they can, because it's not going to stay like this. They know that they're going to take some lumps right now. I think the big mistake Muschamp made was kind of overselling in the preseason about winning the SEC East and all that noise. Although, heck, the way it's shaking out with everybody losing, although Tennessee did come back, you never know. But I think in a positive direction for the Gamecocks, albeit a small step. Check us out, Sports Talk at the Stadium. Appreciate you tuning us in here on sportstalksc.com.